Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan for a middle of the week Inside the Birds film review pod. Now, I know, Adam, it's Dallas week, so like a lot of people are probably like, I'm already past the Cardinals game, and really.
Well, but
I know there's a lot of talking about it, but you know how people want to already shift into Dallas mode, and
sure.
We've got to wrap up some loose ends from the game.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I know everybody's excited about the Phillies too, as we are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But understand, this stuff that we have for the show today goes right into the Dallas week. That's what makes it so important. No, I would not underplay that at all. No, this is fact. There's some things that happen in this game would worry me against Dallas.
Right.
In fact, that's really, there's a lot that's come out of this game. There's positive and negative, but the negative definitely is going to impact the Dallas game. And unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome it because it's injury related.
That is true. And this will be our film review pod. We're going to get some more information as the week goes on and as practice starts about the status of some of the guys. We'll have a little bit today in this pod. But yeah, obviously it's going to be a huge, huge topic for the Eagles over the next few days is who is going to be available to play and who is not. As hard as it is to see, we talked about this Tuesday night on our show on the Fanatic, 97.5 The Fanatic, 6 to 8 p.m. The Eagles are 5-0. They haven't lost a single game, but if they lose to Dallas on Sunday, then Dallas becomes the NFC East leader because they would be 5-1 and the Eagles would be 5-1 and they would own the temporary tiebreaker as we talk about it 6 weeks into the season. But that's right. That just shows you though the margin of error is not as big as you would think it would be when you're 5-0.
Yeah, no, it's Dallas is really good.
Yep.
And I know a lot of Eagle fans growing up here, they always think Dallas will implode. And by the way, you guys are probably right. They usually do.
They usually do.
But man, Dan Quinn is such a great D coordinator. The Niners, when they beat them at Dallas, the Cowboys had some players out in that playoff game.
Right.
And they had all sorts of things go wrong in that game. But hey, look, that counts. Niners beat them soundly, but I think this team is better.
Yep.
Although we'll see what happens later this we've Dak Prescott. We'll have more on him on Friday morning show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about him briefly when we talk about the injuries going into this game because we outlined some stuff last Friday, which all of it turned out to be correct, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. About guys we said we're here, we won't be able to play. I don't know if they're in much better shape to play this week. We'll discuss that shortly. But this game is going to be fun because it's been the last 10, 15 years, there haven't been a lot of examples when the Eagles, actually more 10 years, when the Eagles and Cowboys have been really good at the same time. It just doesn't happen a lot.
That is true. That is what makes this one kind of special. So very exciting stuff on board. All right. Exciting stuff in store for us too, for our Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. We are going to be doing our next Ask ITB live stream on October 18th. I believe that is was that Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, October 18th at 8 p.m. So next week on Tuesday, look forward to doing that for our Patreon subscribers. And then pretty soon, our bonus podcast, which we're continuing our Chalk Talk series. We had a former offensive coordinator last time, former Eagles quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo, who has also been an offensive coordinator. Now we're going to have a former NFL defensive coordinator with us for our next extra bonus podcast for our Patreon subscribers. So look forward to doing that too. And that'll be out within the next week or so.
Yes. I talked to that guy on Tuesday
mm-hmm.
and we got agreement with him. And he's also said, hey, if you want me to come on another couple times, and he's very familiar, though he didn't coach the Fangio scheme. All these defensive guys know every scheme, so it's great. He gave me like a chalk talk over the phone for 5 minutes. I was like, okay, hang on, dude. I'm trying to compute this stuff. I know offense better than defense, but it's super cool. And we're gonna, again, you can only get it if you're a Patreon subscriber. We don't even have permission for agreement with Patreon to put it on YouTube.
Right.
So the DeFilippo interview was about an hour? Was it an hour?
Yeah, it was a good hour. Good hour of chalk talk with John DeFilippo.
Stuff he's never talked about before and probably won't again. It just came, we have this Eagles podcast and he agreed to it. And he said, nothing's really off limits. He said, mostly everything is on the record. Like, I'm happy to talk about, there's some stuff we couldn't talk about, which is obvious, but that was phenomenal. We'll get this D coordinator. We're not even going to hint at who it is. There's a certain hint I could give out and people would all get it. You'll know it when we have them, and I'll leave it at that way. But yeah, and then we got my chat tonight at 8:30. Excuse me, at 8 to 8:30. back on Wednesdays
Mhm.
for half an hour. And then, as you said, the one next week is great because it's visual. That one's on Zoom, right?
Mhm.
Is it on Zoom?
That
Was
was
it?
Zoom. Yeah, that would be a
Right.
Zoom one. Yeah.
We see everyone. It's so cool to see faces, man. It's
Mhm.
been waiting for that, and yeah, it's great. Some of these people we've met at our remotes over the years, and by the way, at Rivers, we'll talk. We'll get into that in a second. When we do our pregame show, guys are more than happy. It doesn't cost you anything. You all could show up. We'd love to have you. We've
Mhm.
got an incredible setup there. You can't miss it. They've given us the platform at Rivers Casino on Delaware Avenue.
Yeah,
It's
big
great.
stage. It's nice.
Yep.
Yeah, and that'll be from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock
Yeah.
Sunday at Rivers Casino. We start at 5 p.m. So make sure you're tuned in at the right time because we do start later for the night games. Also, check out the latest Q&A on the Inside the Birds platform. Quentin Michael, Jason Avant. I got to tell you, the balance between their breakdown of the Cardinals-Eagles game and then some of their stories are fantastic. The story about how Jason Avant got number 81, which used to be Terrell Owens' number, as everybody knows, is phenomenal. So make sure you're
I don't
checking
know
that
this story. I
out.
can't wait. Can't wait to hear it. I
It
don't know
is,
this. This is
it's
great.
really, it's not what I expected. It's pretty funny. It's
Has he
really, really
told it?
funny.
I don't know if he's told. We'd asked what he
I
wasn't
don't think
81 in high
anybody ever
school.
asked him. He's been sitting on this funny story. No one ever said, "Hey, why did you choose 81?"
Yeah.
Knowing the history of that number right before you got there. And well, it's all folded in, if you could
Well,
imagine that.
but what number was it? Wasn't he a single digit number
He was
at
8 at
Michigan?
Michigan.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought 8.
yeah,
Wow. Okay, at Michigan. Okay, didn't know that.
yeah. All right.
Nice.
So again, pregame show 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Post-game show. This one with myself, Adam, and Trey Thomas will start really right at the end of the game. We're not going to wait a half hour before we
Yeah.
get started. It's a late game, so we'll make sure you are tuned into our socials once the game's over. We'll give you another word on that on Friday's pod.
11:30ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends. Amazingly, the Eagles had a game. Well, last couple literally, and it was 1 o'clock game, ended at 4 p.m. Eastern. Like it's like they couldn't have done it any better.
Mm-hmm.
But this game, yeah, we don't want anyone staying up, so we don't want to stay up past about times, right?
Exactly.
So this game should be over around 11:30. So if it's over 11:30, that's when we're starting. If it's over 11:45, we're starting 11:45.
There you go. All right, we're going to get into some of the injuries, some of the tape notes that we've got from our sourced intel, as we like to say. We've been telling you about our new partners, by the way, Mojo. I mean, if you've got to get it on the Mojo app. It's an awesome experience. I like to call it the combination of fantasy football meets the stock market, right? I mean, they've got the players that they offer that you can get in shares. We're talking about offensive players, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end. Every athlete's got a share price that can rise and fall in real time. And it's all based on on-field performance or news, or, if a player gets traded, that can affect their share price too. So if you think you're like the smartest guy in your fantasy league, and you also think you've got a really good grasp on how the stock market works and in general, when to sell high or buy low, then Mojo is really your thing. And so Mojo is available in New Jersey on an iOS, and just by downloading the app, you'll have a chance to win $10,000 in free shares of player stock. So if you want to find the link, just go to the description box for this podcast, whether it's YouTube or whatever platform you listen to, and we'll put the link there. You click on it and it'll take you right to the Mojo app. Or if you just, like a billion other people and you know how to download an app, go download the Mojo app. You got to be 21, physically located in New Jersey to trade on Mojo. And if you have a gambling problem, help is available at 1-800-GAMBLER. The cool thing, Adam, is that like you take a guy like Dallas Goedert, according to Mojo, his stock has risen by over 30% in the past year. And you and I still think there's a lot of room for Dallas Goedert to increase his numbers in this offense. So he's a guy that, even though his stock is up, you may want to continue to get on because the sky's the limit for him, as opposed to someone like Matthew Stafford, who's down $6.25. The Rams are not playing well. I don't know. That's a different one. Like maybe you think that the Rams are going to figure it out and now is a good time to buy on Matthew Stafford because he's had his stock come down. I don't know. Would you buy or sell on Matthew Stafford?
I would sell, but you know who I'd buy right now is Kenneth Walker. Why? Because Rashad Penny has busted his ankle. He's out for the season. And Walker, I've been waiting all season. I'm in 7 leagues. I've been 3 of them. I've been like, I didn't wish Rashad Penny to get hurt. But if you remember, Walker had groin surgery before the season, so he
Right.
got off to a slow start. And then he had a great touchdown run against the Saints last week. Now
Sure.
he's the guy.
Oh, he's going to be, and he's going to be a good one. I
Get in
firmly
early.
believe that.
Get him now. Yeah, if you're doing the mojo, get him early. This is an easy call.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is guys who are going on buys right now. If they're because what I do this in fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
I like trading for players on buys because some people get desperate. Like, oh man, I need points this week. I want to get rid of this guy.
Mm.
You could do like a Monroe St. Brown, right? He had an ankle injury. He didn't look great against the Patriots. He probably shouldn't have played. Well, he's
Mm-hmm.
going to stay off his feet, get this ankle because he got off to an unbelievable start. As Eagle fans know.
Right.
But maybe if his stock's fallen because he got hurt, maybe you get him now before it goes up.
Makes sense. Also, if there's anybody on a bad team you think might get traded to a good team over the deadline, now might be a time to go get him. All right. Speaking of, you mentioned Rashad Penny going down with injuries. We've got some injuries ourselves to talk about here with the Eagles. Let's start with Boston Scott, who did not play against the Cardinals. Now, he was listed right as questionable, I thought, going into the game, wasn't he?
He did. Yeah, what happened is it's a rib injury. And again, there's only like I look at this stuff. I've only seen one team list ribs instead of rib.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's strategic. I think. Well,
Okay.
based on what I heard from someone, I mentioned this a couple shows ago. That sounds what teams are doing, and it's not. I know that the NFL will show up. They show periodically and make sure teams are being honest with their injury reports. It's part of what they do from the operation standpoint. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not like they're there every week to see it. But it says rib on the injury report, and now here's what happened. He took less than his normal reps on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but that's an indication that he's close. Because before that, he wasn't doing that the
Right.
previous week.
Right.
He's very close. He wasn't cleared medically. We told you Friday the only way he's playing is if he gets cleared medically. He wasn't, so he didn't play.
Right.
So he's close. Now, the guys who we're concerned about, Mailata, we're told it's actually a right shoulder. I know you have information. We'll get to that in a second. Jake Elliott, I said I'd be shocked last Friday if he practiced and played. He didn't come close to playing.
Right.
And Avante Maddox is the same thing. I should have said double shot because we have a pretty good idea. This is pretty decent ankle injury. I'd be surprised if he played at this point. We'll learn more. We'll see how his rehab goes this week. We'll see if he can get on the field. But based on this is Wednesday morning, based on what we knew then and what we know now, he's going to have to make an incredible rehab here to get his ankle right. So we'll see. Again, it depends on his practice participation, like Mike Tomlin says.
Right.
Participation will be the guide. Patrick Johnson with concussion, simply getting cleared or not, we'll see. And the big one is Dillard. And we're going to get into the tape notes from our sources on Jack Driscoll.
Mm-hmm.
So Dillard, look, he started practicing last week. The forearm's healed. It's strictly conditioning, as Nick Sirianni talked about. We'll see if his conditioning's good enough this week.
There you go. And then becomes, obviously if Dillard is healthy and can be activated to the 53, I would assume he gets the start if Mailata can't go over Jack Driscoll because Dillard is a natural left tackle. But I think when you look at this matchup against the Cowboys, which we'll talk more about Friday morning, I think you're uncomfortable either way because Dillard has not played a whole lot and Jack Driscoll is not meant to play left tackle, and either one is going to be tasked with having to block Micah Parsons, and that's just not a fun afternoon or evening for either one of those guys. So, maybe you'd feel more comfortable with Dillard because he's just a natural, left tackle, but I still don't love the idea of Andre Dillard having to face Micah Parsons all night long. You'd obviously rather have Jordan Mailata there. So we will see what happens with Mailata. We told you last week it was very, very doubtful. It would be a huge surprise if he was going to be able to play. He still was feeling discomfort in his shoulder. Now, remember, the MRI came back clean. So, if there were a procedure, if it didn't come back clean, and if he had a procedure, it would be easier to say, oh, he's going to be out X to X weeks, because there's usually a timetable involved. But he was still feeling discomfort and pain in that shoulder. And it was to the extent that I was told that he would have to really recover well this week to be able to play against Dallas. So we have to see on Wednesday and Thursday how he's feeling, if he's gotten better, if he was regressed any, to get a better idea of if he'd be able to play. But just based on what I had heard last, it sounded like it was certainly not a sure shot, and nobody would have been surprised if he was out another game. Unless, of course, he's feeling a lot better.
Well, we'll see if he can work this week. The key is, can he work? Because, man, It's Michael Parsons is unbelievable. I know I one personal source said that Parsons normally lines up not all the time, but more often than not over the right tackle, which would be Lane Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Lane Johnson is playing, I don't think. Not that Parsons can't beat Lane. Lane might be the best tackle in football right now. It's unbelievable what this guy's doing.
Right.
But it just will be a battle. It just will be an unbelievable matchup.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say your source told you that Micah Parsons lines up over right tackle a lot?
Yeah, a lot more than you. I didn't write the numbers down based
because
on
Lawrence usually Lawrence. I don't remember him switching sides a whole lot in his career.
He does move around. Dan Quinn moves around, but I see this guy said that based on his tape study when he looked at Dallas,
mm-hmm.
and he agreed that Lane Johnson's the best tackle in football. He goes based on what he's seen from Philly.
Right.
He just said he noticed last season Parsons lining up a lot over the right tackle, and obviously that means the left side. But he didn't chart it. I don't know how many games the guy watched.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that the percentage wasn't one way or the other. He just said he noticed it more than it was a little bit surprising to him, this guy, that he was lined up the way that he was lined up. So we'll see. I haven't got the numbers on the season yet. But he said that Parsons, the way that Quinn is doing it this season,
mm-hmm.
is lots of stunts.
That makes sense.
Causing confusion.
Sure.
And you're not sure who to pick up. And here's the problem with that. Because remember now, Dickerson missed 47 snaps in this past game. We're assuming he's fine to play. Like, he may be limited, so we don't know yet. We'll see what the injury report looks like later today. But we don't know who the left tackle is going to be. This is not good going against this defense. This Dallas defense is no joke. It's phenomenal. It's actually really good. You can make an argument that it's better than the Eagles. I know it's subjective. There's no way to measure that other than statistics in terms of pressures and all sorts of stuff. But by tape study, it's if you want to say the Eagles are better, fine. If you want to see Dallas is better, fine defensively. They're just really good, and you're going to see that in this game. I would assume you're going to see this show up Sunday night.
There you go. All right, well, let's also look at the injuries on defense with Patrick Johnson and Avonte Maddox. Patrick Johnson missed the game with a concussion. Avonte Maddox, as you had spelled out pretty well last week on the pods, was very, very unlikely to play. And I think you mentioned even, he was writhing in pain when he suffered the ankle injury in practice. So It was going to be a little bit. What do you know now?
Yeah, so we don't know. Again, I just said it about 5 minutes ago.
I'm sorry. Right.
Doesn't look good. But look, if he rehabs the heck out of it, they were not holding him out for this game. That's definitely not the case. Someone asked me that. I didn't. Someone asked me on Twitter. I said I didn't answer it, but I'll answer it here. No, it had nothing to do with it. This is a pretty decent ankle injury. It was definitely we knew when it happened. We had heard it was multiple weeks. It could be longer than that. It's only midweek, so we'll get more. I'd be slightly surprised if he played. He's going to have to really rehab it to be able to play. And here's the problem: it's an ankle injury, and he's a corner, not a lineman. Right. You have to play in space. You got to be able to run, and that's the key here. You stop and start, move, and he's going to have to make significant progress, quite frankly, to play.
All right. Well, let us get into the tape review here. The offense and defense will start first with offense, but I want to pause real quick to tell you about our new friends and partners at Fight Camp, the app that everybody's talking about. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. Are you tired of the same old boring home workouts or that boring run around the same path? You need some excitement in your workout. Did you know at-home boxing is one of the safest and most effective forms of exercise? So let me introduce you to Fight Camp. It's an interactive at-home boxing app. It brings the best workout in the world into your house and makes it fun. Explore thousands of workouts led by expert trainers with decades of experience teaching proper boxing form and technique. In fact, one of the founding Fight Camp trainers, Coach PJ, he's a Philadelphia native and a huge Eagles fan. He's got tons of high-energy workouts that are so fun. Show him some support and download the Fight Camp app. The app's got live punch counting stats. It'll motivate you to work harder, help you map out your progress. And of course, you can go head to head against other members from across the country from your own living room. Imagine me and Adam Caplan going one-on-one from the Fight Camp app. I'll put my money on me. One of the best things about the app also is that it makes boxing accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter your age, your experience level. It's going to be a great time. So download the app and join the biggest boxing community in the world without leaving your house. Fight Camp packages start at just $99. They've got financing options. You can get as low as $9 a month. To get everything you need, go to fightcamp.com/insidethebirds. That's fightcamp.com/insidethebirds. All right, let's talk about the offense first, Adam. I think the obvious to the naked eye theme was that Nick Sirianni was in love with the screen pass against the Arizona Cardinals, which he talked about on Monday when he was asked about hot routes versus blitzes, and his response was, well, insinuated basically that the screen was their option against the blitz. And Jason Avant did a great job in the pregame show, and he and Quentin Michael did another good job in Q&A of explaining that while hot rights are good, I mean, they serve a great purpose against the blitz. If you do too much of that, the defense picks up on that, and then they start to funnel their pressure so that you make sure the ball goes to the hot route, which is usually short of the sticks, and then you can stop them from getting the first down.
Yeah. Oh, that because it's interesting. So at the start of the game, it was very simple, and I'm sure this came from tape from their pro staff.
Mm-hmm.
Because each team has an advanced pro staff who they get to know their opponent each week. They should be experts at it because they know they're assigned for this. They know who the teams are during the season.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever their pro guys are, whoever did, they knew that Arizona plays a lot of zone, though they're a super blitzing team. They were number 2
Mm-hmm.
in the NFL coming into it in blitz percentage, but they play zone behind it and they play off coverage. And it's funny because I'm watching this game and I'm thinking, wow, even on TV we could see this. Oh wow, they're thrown to the right and left sides and they're getting open. These guys, I'm like, oh boy, they really have these guys scouted pretty. They got what they thought they were going to get.
Right.
They also threw the ball and they were taking shots downfield. I'm like, wow, this is great because we had said on our not only our pregame show, we said on our preview show last Friday that number 20 Marco Wilson is a guy teams go after, and boy, they went after him early.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it looked like it was going to be a blowout. So here are the notes from our sources on this game. Scheme very basic, like most weeks. Now this is the first time someone told us this of the 3 people we spoke to. We knew about the verticals, but their splits are different from Doug Peterson's splits.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, if you watch me on YouTube, they're really wide. Very predictable, right?
Right.
That
yep.
We would complain like, could you move them inside,
right,
and then break out,
right?
Could you change it up?
Well, even moving inside gives you the option many times to do it in or an out, and then the D-back has to guess. Yeah,
correct. Great point. So, however, they've become very predictable. We're told when people we've talked to around the league see it.
Mm-hmm.
This one guy said, "Listen, Philly's very tight split oriented. More often than not, they're tighter instead of wider." He goes, "You start to become predictable." But the one thing I love about the staff is,
mm-hmm.
it seems like right when you figure out what they're going to do, they do something different. Like, okay, so their scheme is basic. It wasn't just this game; they just execute the hell out of it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
This game, they did some speed offense, or aka tempo. They did a good job with the tempo, but you can't do it all game. It has to be a changeup. It can't be what you do. This is not college football,
right?
But they kind of run what they run now. They've kind of morphed into this. Okay, they know they can win with AJ Brown because he just outmuscles everybody.
Yep.
Smith, you can line up anywhere, and Goedert's an absolute beast. And the thing is, though, I think what happened is they may not agree with this, but another person said to us that they thought the coaches coached the limitations of Dickerson being out for well over half the game. Though Kelsey, I guess what we were told is, one guy said, you really couldn't tell that he was hurt. After he came back, he just gutted it out. He didn't look limited, right? Or very limited. He didn't make guy's unbelievable.
That's good. He's an animal.
Yep. And then Driscoll.
By the way, he even said, "I tend to be dramatic." I don't know if you heard Jason Kelsey say that.
I know. But no, but I know. But he's
yeah.
But what I would say off that though is that a lot of, like, when he broke I think he broke his toe. Like, it might have been like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. Yeah, and 18, I think.
You and I knew about this.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to hint a little bit on that show. It's like he's dealing with something that's fairly significant. We don't know how he's
right. I remember that. Yeah,
and he made it. I don't know if they put a plate in his foot. I don't know what they did. The dude is unbelievable. But the issue, and I know there've been some hype about Driscoll. Let me just be honest with you. He was passable. He's certainly not. The issue that he has, we're told by multiple people, is his anchor is not great. He's not strong enough, really.
Right.
At times it shows up. He's not really built for left tackle. He's not a great
Correct.
athlete. He's a better than average athlete, but what he is he's so smart and he's coached so well. The hand usage, because he's coached by Stoutland, they have a certain way, as Trey Thomas told us. The catch technique, or or the hands are they use them correctly, and then they shock the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He had some snaps where you go, okay, I can see why he was a fourth round pick and not a first or second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
He was passable. One person would dispute the hype. I'll leave it at that of that's out there, because Sirianni was, oh, glad we have him on our team, and
Yeah.
here's what happened. He didn't embarrass himself. He was passable, but you don't want him starting more than one or two games. You just don't. And by the way, I'd bet the absolute house, and I don't care who's starting. If Mailata somehow is available, midweek where it doesn't look great, but if he's available, whoever it is, Mailata, if he plays, will now be close to 100%. Driscoll is limited at left tackle, and obviously, if Dillard had not played since last season, if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm lining up Parsons 90% of the time against that left tackle.
Oh, I would think that
don't you think?
Yeah, I would. Well, there's two things I think. I would do that, and this is offensive film review, so this fits what we're talking about. If the Eagles are in a third down, and if Kenny Gainwell is the running back, I am sending 6 to make sure there's an extra man that Kenny Gainwell has to block, and I'm not sending it 6 like they're not coming from where you think they're coming from. They're going to be coming from directions that I'm not showing you, so that Gainwell has to get himself in the position to figure out which guy is the guy he's taking, because he's not doing a great job of that. His blitz pickup has been a problematic. Sometimes it's finding the right guy, and sometimes it's then blocking the right guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I did not ask about that.
I think that's something you got to watch against the Cowboys Sunday night.
Okay.
6-man rushes
Sure.
when Gainwell's on the field.
Off that, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened in this game, the communication between the linemen. Because remember, we asked Trey there's certain signals that they have. He had it with maybe Jamal Jackson, or whoever it was, he was playing with. But when you're playing a bunch of backups, and particularly Driscoll, this is a position he's never played before, it's going to be a problem if Driscoll's got to start again. You're talking about one of the top 3 defenses in football. It's not just by numbers; it's about what the tape shows. They're unbelievably athletic. They're not great. Dallas is not great up the middle. In fact, I would argue when Arizona moves, they're like Zach Allen's super athletic, who's tall. He had I think maybe 94 foot. I can't remember. He could cause problems. He's on a contract year. He's a good player. It could give you problems when you're playing with some backups. And say Malo, we're told, had an okay game, had some great snaps, and some snaps because he's more athletic than strong, which is what the opposite was true when he came into when he came in 2016. But he had some snaps where he wasn't great. He was just okay. But overall, I would worry, because I know you'd asked me on the Fanatic Tuesday night. Our show was on Tuesday because the Sixers conflict on Monday, and you'd ask me a great question, because we rarely ever talk about how we feel during the week. And the way you set it up, it actually started to make me think. I'd not even thought about it yet, but I'm very worried about this game. I pick the Eagles every week because they have the best roster in the NFL. And they're very well coached, and I've never felt this way in our 5 years. For those of us who've watched us, I've taken my shots when I think it's been warranted, and it certainly was warranted in 2020. But I've been so impressed with this staff, though. But I'll tell you, it's going to be hard if they're playing with a bunch 2 backups.
Yeah. Well, it should be hard. I mean, that's the sport here. They've had 5 games. They've won 5, as I like to say, and I said on the Fanatic, every time you win a game when you're undefeated, you are getting closer to your inevitable loss, because there's only been a couple of teams that have made it through the season undefeated. So if it's this Sunday, it's this Sunday. It's no big deal. It's 1 loss, but obviously it's Dallas. So everybody wants to, it becomes more important because you have a chance to put basically 2 games up on the Cowboys for the division by winning that game. So it does take on a little bit greater of importance.
All right, so that was the offensive line. Let's get to Hurts. So, yeah, it's. I'm just looking at these notes here. So yeah, they had him get the ball out quickly. Very smart. It was crazy. Some of their corners were 8 yards off.
Yeah,
throw the football. People
Well,
wanted
they
them to
did
run. Why
early. They
would you?
threw 3 straight to AJ Brown.
I know. And by the way, for people wanting to say, why don't they run the ball? Are you serious? Why? Are you kidding me? That I would have yelled if I'm an Eagles fan. I would have yelled at Sirianni if they would have run the ball. You come out throwing, man. First of all, you should always come out throwing. Number one. Number two, if they're going to be so off, who in the right mind would run the football?
I
Throw the
mean,
damn
this is what
football.
everybody did to the Eagles last year, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they just said, "Oh my
because the
God, you're
corner
going to give us that
they were
space."
so off, right?
Yeah, pitch and
Right.
catch.
Because Gannon was coach's limitations. But what happened was they ran tunnel screens, what's called a run out screen, which some people call jailbreak, or some coaches call run out, or
Hmm.
personal people call run out screens. They killed them on it. It great job by Advance. And obviously give the coaches credit. They coached to what they thought they were going to get, and they got it.
Yeah,
The one issue, one person said that as the game progressed, and they're not really sure because they don't know these coaches, they got away from the intermediate passing game
certainly.
less, and they didn't understand. Like they said that now they would blame Hurts. A couple guys that we talked to blame Hurts. He said Hurts started to miss guys that are open. There were some plays he felt rushed. He rushed himself a little bit because of
Hmm.
the blitzing. They're relentless. That Van shows him. He's just relentless in these blitzes. But it's a shame they did not build off that 14-point lead where it looked like they were going to smoke them because man, they were so aggressive not only with the screens but the shot plays downfield
Yeah.
looked a lot like some of the what was the game where they had 6 plays over 30 yards? Was it the
Oh,
Washington
that was
game?
the Vikings game, right? When
Was it Vikings game? I don't know.
yeah, because they were so much. The coverage was so lax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, they just thought they could do it. So that would be it for her.
Oh
Hurts
no,
was
wait. I'm sorry. It was a Washington where Devontae had the huge game. I know what you're talking about
yes,
the
the
one where
downfield.
Devontae.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that
yes.
was
It had to be
Washington. My
Washington.
fault. My
Yeah, there
fault.
you
Yeah.
go. Hurts was okay this game. The people we spoke with, one said that they clearly were concerned about the offensive line, and it's still a half read offense. This works for Hurts. They loved and everyone raved about the big time throw to win the game. You know, that will win the game. The throw to
Oh
the
God, the
Goddard.
throw to Goddard was great. Yeah.
It's just an amazing throw. I mean, that's a big time NFL throw, which a lot of guys aren't even willing to make.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the inconsistency in the game from Hurts, that was a big time NFL throw. And I was able to watch that tape on Tuesday. That I only watched 10 minutes of it, but I scanned through it. You could, if you get the NFL Plus package, you can find it. It's actually pretty easy, and it's an amazing throw. And Goddard's rack yard, the run after the catch is just it. You know, it's funny if they decide to make him even a bigger focal point. Like we knew it going to this game, Arizona was number 2, second worst in the NFL against tight ends. That's why it was Cosell and I knew this.
Mm-hmm.
So Greg and I used it as our players of the game. And I think we could argue that he was the player of the game on offense. You know,
Sure.
I'll pick,
I'd have no
pick
beef
who
with
you
it.
want, but
Sure.
he was great. To me, tell me if you agree with me. And folks on our YouTube, shout out to you guys. Would you not agree with me that Goddard should get the ball a ton every game because he's almost at times uncoverable?
Yes, and I think that this staff does a great job of manufacturing touches for him, which
Yes.
we talk about all the time. By this tight end screen, the tight end screen is a great weapon,
Oh,
even more so than the wide receiver screen because it's easier to get the ball to the tight end because he's in line. They think the Eagles run so well, they often think he's just a run blocker because he's so good at it, and then it's just an easy toss from Jalen Hurts to Goddard with the blocking setup for him. In some regards, the wide receiver screens have become tougher because they're so commonplace, and then you obviously have to throw quick to the receiver behind
or
the
a
two
smoke route.
blockers or the
Yeah.
smoke route. Yeah, I mean, I just think the tight end screen when you have an athletic tight end like Dallas Goedert, who is a good blocker, so that keeps the deception for the defense alive. It's such a great weapon.
Yes, and Brown should have got Brown. Hurts missed Brown open because people were like, "What the hell? He got 3 catches early and never again." Sometimes he was open.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't get the football. Hurts was not bad in this game. This is another game. Now the first game he had no choice but the run. He had to. Detroit Eagles didn't know. Eagles sort of knew it was coming. That's why Tungia was up for that game. But you couldn't. It's like Aaron Glenn, which he just well of the he was Aaron Glenn's big on the overload blitz, and he found a way to do it. But so that look, this is all correctable now. Running back wise, they were a little bit. The numbers don't show. Well, the numbers showed it later, but Gainwell. I'll tell you what, Gainwell. I'm starting to learn a little bit more about Gainwell. he's a complete. I now know why they like Gainwell so much, because he's such a compliment to Sanders. Gainwell's not. He's not quite the explosive athlete that people gave him credit for, maybe, but he's such a decisive downhill runner. No one ever talked about this at Memphis. Not even
No,
his coach Ryan Silverfield when we had him on our show.
that's right.
Never mentioned that.
No, it must have been something he improved, I don't know, because the book on him was that he was going to bounce it to the outside, and that's been anything but. But
Yeah.
maybe again, you have to evaluate somebody within the scheme of the offense they
Sure.
play in, and maybe the Memphis offense was basically wide zone. I don't know. But that was the book. But yeah, it's been very interesting to watch him be a different type of runner than we thought.
I'm actually going to talk to Silverfield. I'm going to talk to him in a bit, and I'm going to actually ask him what he remembers about 2020. He only played 1 year,
Right?
or 2019. Goodness gracious, yeah, because he took 2020 off. But he's very unique, and now I'm starting to, based on my own eyes watching him, and then based on what we've heard, he's so decisive. They love that. No wasted motion. As you said, he's not looking to bounce. He's like, okay, this is the play, but I'm going to run it right down, and he gets so low.
Right.
But we like to see him more in the pass game. That's pretty much it. It was
real quick on Hurts. I wanted to ask you, because he almost was picked off by
that was a bad read.
Yeah, and then it was almost
bad
was
throw.
it similar? Did you get anything on that being kind of similar to the throw that was picked off against Jacksonville? Because it looked like the route concept was similar. How Cisco was he threw a little bit.
Yes,
it's the underneath defender, right? That's
he didn't see him, right? The interception of Cisco was just an inaccurate throw,
right? But
this
one was tipped. Was it tipped? The one to Cisco, wasn't it tipped?
I don't remember. I just know that it was not accurate, and this one was not accurate either.
Okay.
But the thing about Hurts, which is so good, he just does. Even he's just going to throw it out of bounds, or he's just not going to make a bad decision.
Right.
This is what
very careful.
Right. But you could win with that. Where Wentz, he may be a more gifted arm throw, but it doesn't matter when you continually make mistakes. Being great arm talent doesn't mean anything if you don't make good decisions with the football.
Right.
You could win with certain limitations if the guy could make this throw, that throw. Maybe you're not giving him 3 or 4 reads. It's okay as long as he doesn't turn the ball over. And more often than not, by the way, he throws it where it needs to be. And by the way, another thing, his downfield throw is become so much better than it was last year. It's like night and day.
Right. We talked about how his feet are set now. Even when the one he rolled out all the way to the left, he reset his feet and threw a beautiful pass to Devontae Smith over the middle. I think that was the first or second quarter, because his feet were set correctly. It was fantastic mechanics. So great on him.
Great to start the game, and then it just the blitz got to them. I think the backups, on the offensive line, it's all correctable. But it's correctable. The problem is if they don't have Dillard, let's say, or even if Mailata plays, I just don't know if he can last. See, this is the other problem. You got the Dickerson issue. Is he going to last?
Yeah. No, I listen. It's been shaky early on with guys coming in and out. No doubt about that. All right, let's transition to the defense. First, we'll remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check out all their great coverage on phlsportsnation.com. You can find them on Twitter at phlsportsnation. Let's pause real quick and hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you hop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal.
And shout out to his son, Skylar, who's a tremendous kicker.
Yes, Skylar.
I think he is at St. Joe's Prep.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty decent program.
Yeah, I know. Stefanski went there.
Yeah.
Our buddy Joe DeCamera went there, I think.
Trotter's kid, Marvin Harrison's kid, they're both. I think they're both at Ohio State right now, and they came from that program. So.
Did Sean McDermott go there, or did he go to LaSalle High?
No, he went to LaSalle. Yeah, he went to LaSalle.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And we were talking about North Penn before, right? Because of in Lansdale, that's where Matt Amendola went, right?
Yeah. Sure.
But Joe Judge is from Lansdale Catholic, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Defense. So defensive line, a lot of 5-1 looks. And Jordan Davis, I thought had one of his maybe his best game.
He was really good. Here's the thing. This is what one guy gave me, and I'm going to use this. I got super excited when he said it. This is a term that most personnel people use, but it never really sunk in until this guy said, he goes, dude, he's got rare traits you cannot teach. And in fact, you can't find. I'm like, how so? He moved. This guy's Sean Harlow's his name. I think he's the guy who started center.
Uh-huh.
He moved Harlow. If you watch him on YouTube, he just went. I don't know if he extended his right arm or
Yeah,
left arm.
he gave him the old shove away. It was great. I
Yeah,
know what you're
I don't
talking
remember that
about.
play, but this guy said he goes, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He goes, man, he goes, if Philly gets him into shape, because he's getting better shape, he's moving better.
Mm-hmm.
I think you made a great point, which someone else told me. You told me off air that one thing he's doing a better job of, he's not losing his balance.
Right.
He's not being moved off the ball. He's getting better bend, better movement. And you're starting to see this kid come on. He's a really good kid, by the way. He does care. We're told it really means a lot to him.
Definitely.
You know, but when I say that, you would think all players say that, but they don't normally do it.
No, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
This kid, because it's not just the saying, it's the doing part, and he's very coachable. And yeah, so they play what's called a 50-run front or a 5-1 in layman's terms.
Mm-hmm.
Davis, he's back-to-back good games. This is his best game. The Eagles off defensive line sometimes move their line when they got pressure. Brandon Graham looks tremendous. It's a shame he got pressures in this game. He looked phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Sweaty, 94, looked good. It's a good pressure. I know they didn't have the sack numbers. Reddick is playing a little bit stronger. You mentioned this on our last show, which was a great point, and Cosell backed this up on Sunday. Seven Reddick is a lot. I don't know that he's ever played like this, and I don't know if their scheme calls for it, but he's playing, and I know that he's a linebacker technically, but forget that. He's an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing with more power, man, and his second reaction, which it's not like a quarterback, what happens is he runs past the guy, and then he attacks the guy, attacks the quarterback. It's really interesting what he does. He did some of this in Carolina, and they were told a certain way because people wanted them to blitz more with against Kyler Murray. You could see them if you're watching it. It was like they weren't trying to run the wide nine as much, where they get upfield because of the way that he plays. They were trying to hem him in.
Right, hem him
right,
in. Right.
Did a great job of it. So they had a certain plan, and they also used 43. Who's Kaiser White? Kaiser White, by the way, he's really like he's just. I mean, the guys that I get, you know this because you talk to so many NFL people. They're not fans. They just go, okay, they go 43 is really wow. He shows up on tape.
Yeah,
but we're hearing this every week.
Yeah. I mean,
not perfect.
It's not that I feel like people are over exaggerating what he did. He's very fast and he gets to the ball. And now you've got 5-man fronts that make it easy. I mean, the guy's not like Fred Warner or anything like that.
No, that's
doing what he's being asked
to
do.
Worldly.
Yeah. I still say, like, if a team line decides like we're going to try to power run up you, then we're not going to be talking great things about Kaiser White. But luckily, they've not had to do that yet.
So. All right. So here's what he did: quasi spy blitzer on tight ends. Philly does a phenomenal job of using him correctly. He's being used differently than he was with the Chargers. LAC.
By the way, great note you just had, quasi spy, because we were asked a lot in the last 24 hours. You know, what did you think about them using as a spy? And you know, just in what I was able to see, it didn't look like he was what someone would always say is like a spy. It felt like he had the ability to spy Kyler Murray out of the structure of the defense, that zone that they play, where, you know, if the route doesn't get carried to him, well, then he's got the quarterback in front of him to look at. You know, it's like quasi spy. It wasn't like what you would normally see.
Correct.
Like as a man-to-man spy. Go ahead.
Right. Yes. Right. And there's a term, and I didn't write it down, so I could only remember spy. There's a certain coaching term. Maybe when we have this defense coordinator on next week, I'm going to ask him what he calls it.
Okay.
He's just been everything they could think of, and more, like, because we've talked about this before. We had heard great things in OTAs, but I've learned my lesson of not going crazy with OTAs. Sometimes you're just going to be wrong because it's like AA baseball. Well, it's like, okay, he dominates in AA baseball. Could he go to AAA? Okay, he did great in preseason. In training camp. That's AAA baseball because he hit the fastball now.
Right.
Sure as hell is. He's really good. He's not perfect because he's smaller, but he's been a great story. In fact, he's TJ Edwards. I know some people would say he's the best linebacker. I would say that Kaiser's got better versatility.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably fair. He's certainly been their best so far 1-year signing linebacker in quite a
Oh,
while since Nigel Bradham.
yeah, good
But
point.
well, that was yeah. Was that a trade originally, or was that a sign? No, it was a signing, right?
That was a signing, sure.
Yeah, that was a signing. Okay.
Boy, it just made me think of the Derby robbery. What
No,
was it,
yeah.
like a third-round pick in Jordan Matthews?
And Jordan Matthews, yes.
Who's a regressing player. What a robbery that was.
That was a robbery. And
Yeah.
was it a robbery? Let's see, because
Well, it was because
he
he helped
missed
them win
10
the Super
games
Bowl.
that year. That's the weird thing.
No, but he did he not start in the Super Bowl?
He did start the Super Bowl. He did.
And that's no, I hear you that he missed
Yeah.
time, but
I would have to know who the Bills drafted with that 3rd-round pick. If it was a really good player,
But here's the
I'm just
thing.
kidding. I don't care.
No, but here's the thing: they would have had to get Leto or Sheldon Brown out of retirement. This is how bad they were. Really... Wait, who is the guy from Buffalo? Oh, McKelvin.
Leotis McKelvin, yeah,
right, and then who didn't work at all.
No,
he was toast. And then, did they have another guy in training camp?
Yes,
well, Patrick Robinson was
Brooks,
great, but
Ron Brooks wasn't he also a Bills guy? Yeah,
who blew his knee out. It's a shame, right?
Yeah,
and then so that was linebackers.
Yep.
And again, as we always tell you, folks, if there's stuff we didn't cover in this show, we'll have it for Friday. We promise you, and also Greg and Jason will have on a pregame show. But the tights were generally their zone exchanges in our notes were very good. They had some miscommunications or something that happened. On Hollywood Brown, they clearly, I guess the tape shows us apparently they weren't carried out. There was just communication errors, which is going to happen. This happens.
But what happened even against the Jags? You saw 33 Josiah Scott
Agnew
sort of get lost a little bit on where he was supposed to be.
Sure, correct. And 33 Scott, I didn't look up his number, but someone told me 33. I think that's Scott. These personnel guys who don't, they don't work for the Eagles, so they don't know. They just go by number. I just wish I don't always have like the rosters look at me. So
right,
like, okay, the guy said 33. I'm guessing this is Scott, that he was better than the other game.
Right.
And that's look, it was good, not great. You could see the Eagles front, they've got a lot of speed on defense. But Kyler Murray's so unorthodox, you're just not going to stop him all game. And I think, look, again, he's unlike, as you had said on our other show last week, they're not going to face anyone like this again. Right. Aaron Rodgers isn't like this. I mean, he's quick draw McGraw. Although Murray does, in the previous games, he'd be getting out. They had him get rid of the football a lot quicker than he had in years past.
Yep.
But they did a good. The advanced work in this game. The Eagles did a good job. I just think they had some coverage breakdowns on Hollywood Brown, who's really good, very fast.
Yeah. Well, I think what they'll have to watch for going forward is that they really started doing the matchup zone in full effect in the Washington game. And what I recall from the Washington offensive game plan was they ran a lot of 2-by-2 formations, 2 outside receivers, and then the 2 inside receivers would run the crossing route over the middle. So that's pretty hard to do against what the Eagles are doing with their match and carry deliver that Greg Cosell talks about, right? You got a zone of 4 people responsible for covering 2. It's pretty easy to clog that. But Jacksonville did it last week until they couldn't because of the rain. And then I saw the same thing from Cardinals. They're starting to use more 3-by-1s or flooding one side of the field with receivers, which makes it harder for those interior defenders now. You're not just carrying a guy from left to right. You're like, oh, there's 3 people here. You've got to get one guy. We're all in man to start with, and then it becomes a zone. But what happens if 2 guys run a vertical and the 3rd guy runs a quick out? Then all of a sudden who do I carry him to? So I think that's what's starting to cause the confusion, because the flood is a way to combat the type of zone the Eagles are playing. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. In fact, we're going to talk more about this on Friday, but I have some more offensive notes. The Eagles offense, which I'm looking at my notes here, which I forgot to mention, but there's a book on the Eagles offense, which they're going to have. I talked about the tight splits, but there's certain things they have to do a better job of not, there's certain, like the Eagles are getting a little predictable with lack of pre-snap movement. The Eagles don't. Sirianni just doesn't believe in it.
Right.
But I think that was part of why their offense was not as good, because your defenses are starting to figure out. They're starting to see a pattern, but the staff has been so good at staying ahead of it. And Dan Quinn, look, this guy's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal football coach, and he's
got great personnel.
Yeah, and he's junked this old Seattle cover three. He doesn't coach like that. He plays a lot more man, which is he's evolved. Give him credit.
Well, that's what good coaches do. They put their players in position to succeed. So good by him. I can't wait to preview the game on Friday morning and then again on Sunday evening at 5:00 when the pregame show begins.
Can't wait. Be a great one.
That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Tyler Strasser, doing a great job as always. And we always thank you, the listeners, for flying with us inside the Birds.